Okay, Grand Rising, y'all, Grand Rising. Grand Rising. Okay, so this presentation, let me go ahead and press present. This is all about the Akashic Records. Um, and how to actually access this. So you want to watch this video first. Sorry that I'm red. This is my infrared light. Got to get my infrared in first thing in the morning. So you want to watch this video first. Then you can refer to the PDF of how to actually access and prepare yourself to open up your own Akashic records, and then watch the video of the techniques to tap into the spine and to get into that meditative state. I am not actually going to be providing the meditation. Um, I'm going to provide, there's so many on YouTube. So I'm going to provide the one that I like to use when I do this type of work. Just because it's like really well produced and there's no need to reinvent the wheel. All right. So when we're talking about the Akashic, this is all part of the five elements, which are called the Pancha Mahabhuta. So certain practices tap into these elements and strengthen them within us. So we've got Vayu, which is air. You might have learned that in your 200, the different Vayus of how we conduct and direct energy with the yoga asana and the bandha locks. We've got Agni, which is our digestive fire, our internal fire, which we've learned resides in the root chakra and in the heart chakra primarily. We've got Jal, which is our water. And our water is particularly important for managing if we are to become depressive. So it is the height, at its height, it's our creative energy. When we are disbalanced with our water energy, we become depressive. Then we have Prithvi, which is earth, and then Akash, which is the ether. So, oh, it's on my old app, but on my old app, we did 32 days of sadhana with the tattvas. So at some point, we're going to circle back to that concept, but the tattvas are how the yogis describe elements within the body. So it has a lot to do with the sister science of yoga called Ayurveda. All right, so the first one is the heart chakra, and this is referred to as Vayu. And this is just for you to have a general idea of where we're going with the Akash, to fit it into the larger picture. So, the properties of the heart are movement, lightness, and mobility. So when we're doing pranayama, any of the dynamic asana, flowing movements, and doing any sort of mental clarity practice like sadhana, this is really inciting the heart chakra. When we're talking about the fire, this is solar plexus, transformation, heat, light, breath of fire. So Agni Pranayam, any like Nabi Kriya, the core strengthening, any of the energy building Kriya, and actually stimulating digestion with like Nali Kriya or any of the Shat Kriyas in Hatha Yoga. And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, that's okay. Just know that some of these practices within Kundalini are very specific to Agni, which is why they help with digestion, which is why they help with any kind of like lower belly gut issue. We talk about Jal, water, sacral chakra, fluidity, adaptivity, emotion. This is primordial yoga, fluid movements, any kind of hip openers, emotional release work, and cooling practices. So in this training, we actually delve into all of the elements. We're doing all of these things. You're getting all of the things. And this is one that I focused on for quite some time, within how long I've been teaching this. And then, of course, earth, root, prithvi, stability, grounding structure, grounding postures, the standing sequences. Oh, excuse me. body awareness, and the foundational work. Now, when we talk about the Akash, it is representative of the throat chakra. The properties are very subtle, very omnipresent, and very infinite. So, this is the space of mantra. This is the space of meditation in spaciousness and consciousness, expansive breath work, connection to cosmic consciousness. So, this is the area that we're really working in when it comes to the Akash. This is why. So, because it is throat chakra, this is why your own voice, your voice integration, is so important. And if you feel called, instead of me giving a meditation or giving you one of the videos from YouTube where you're being guided into it, I do recommend that you listen to one of the ones on YouTube and then create your own way of getting into your own Akashic records and actually like record your voice doing that. I highly recommend that. Most people don't take it to that effect. Um, I didn't really have to do that because it was really easy for me to slip into the meditative state using the other um, methods. But if you're having trouble, for example, like you're falling asleep every single time, or it's just not landing with you, or you're not able to derive information from the Akash, I highly recommend using your own voice, integrating your own voice, and then listening to that in a meditative state. Your subconscious will very easily be able to pick up on things. So, what are the Akashic records? The term Akasha is from a Sanskrit origin, and it's derived from the word that means sky, space, or ether. This is different than air, suggesting this universal, all-encompassing realm. And I made reference to this a couple of times already in our slideshows, but ether being almost like argon, being like plasmic makeup, the plasma. So the Akashic records are a concept in various spiritual and esoteric traditions, referring to a cosmic library or a universal record of all events, thoughts, and feelings that have ever occurred. And it's believed to be a storehouse of information encompassing the entirety of existence, including past, present, and future timelines. In the very simplest of terms, the Akashic records are claimed to be an intangible book detailing our past lives. So from the very first life that you lived, and there could be 10,000 of them, there could be 8 of them, to your current one, everything is recorded in this library, in these books. So it means every life you have lived, every emotion you've expressed, every thought, every action, every promise you made, it's recorded in the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records is very structured, very organized. If you want to know the purpose of your life, this is where you want to visit. This is the arena that you want to be in. If you're having trouble understanding why you're here, what the reason is for you to be here, this is going to be a great module for you. The word Akashic itself is derived from the Sanskrit word Akasha, which means the primary matter from which everything is conjured, and it surrounds us in its entirety at all times. The Akashic Records is also referred to as the Hall of Records, and it's believed that these books are found in a multidimensional library in a place that exists in between worlds and is made of light. It's said that every incarnated soul has their information recorded and encoded with light itself. The supreme wisdom that's provided by the Akashic Records is said to be something that only saints, psychics, and souls who have reached an unprecedented level of self-discovery are really capable of achieving. Only the people who would truly be able to realize how sacred the records are would be permitted to access the records. And I do believe this still to be true. But as humanity steps into the age of Aquarius, it says everything has changed, but I think what I meant by that is that instead of depending on the sages for guidance, humans begin to take responsibility for our own spiritual growth and awakening, and we start to realize our power, that we are the ones that can be our best guides, that we are the best experts in our own lives, especially in this realm. I have seen in Akashic Records, this is how I knew this stuff pretty early on because I had a gal, she was like in the first teacher training who was an Akashic Records reader. That was her whole thing. And she was like, in exchange for doing yoga, I'll teach you how to do Akashic Records and we can access your Akashic Records and this and that and the other thing. It was amazing. I did it as an exchange because I was very curious. But frankly, it was like stuff I already knew and was in touch with. Maybe didn't declare it out loud, but maybe that's what you'll find is that like you're already going to have that niggle in the back of your head that already told you this kind of stuff. And maybe it's just a whisper. Maybe it's just something that maybe you didn't listen to right away. And then now it's going to present itself as very loud. Or it could be stuff you really didn't know. I don't go into the Akash a lot to be upfront with you. Um, I go in if I do feel that sense of like meaninglessness or purposelessness, which isn't very often. Usually, like most of the time, I'm pretty on purpose here. After I went through the cancer experience, I only really had to do this once. But I found that in working one on one with many different people, this is a very important step for many to take. And it's really only for initiates. Not everybody can access the Akashic records right away because it isn't valued by them, if that makes sense. Once it becomes valued, then you'll begin to access it and it'll be very easy to access. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. Okay, the Akashic records are a concept in various spiritual and esoteric traditions, referring to a cosmic library, universal records, all events, thoughts, feelings that have ever occurred, believed to be a storehouse of information encompassing an entirety of existence, including past, present, and future timelines. I believe that this is within the plasma. This is how things like the Hadron Collider can start messing with our sense of time. Key aspects of Akashic records. Since time immemorial, Akashic records have always been there. While the most universally acknowledged name is influenced by Sanskrit, a lot of cultures and believers have a different name for the records, as well as slightly different interpretations. The Bible calls it the Book of Life. The Torah refers to it as the Book of Remembrance. In Garuda Purana, one divine individual named Chitragupta was tasked with the supreme job of keeping track of and recording the life of every being in this universe from the day that they are born to the day that they die to when they are reincarnated and what happens in between. And it's in the mystical traditions that these documents are termed the Akashic Records, a world of books that has the entirety of the universe recorded in it. In America, one of the most followed and documented 20th century psychics, Edgar Cayce, which my teacher believes that he is a reincarnate. I believe he is a reincarnate of Edgar Cayce, David Wilcock. He was famous for his accomplishment of achieving the close proximity to the Akashic Records and actually reading what it contained. Edgar Cayce was born in 1877 and he died in 1945. He was a mystic of American origin. He's actually from, I think, West Virginia or Kentucky, like that area of the world. And he was known as the sleeping prophet. He also channeled a lot of information about Atlantis itself. It's said that Casey made use of trance channeling methods through which he could read the records and then share the wisdom that he gained with the world to propel the evolution of human spiritualism. Other than Edgar Cayce, the theosophist Helena Blavatsky, H.P. Blavatsky, mentioned something called the indestructible tablets of the astral light. Apparently, it had not only past recorded details of humanity, but it also details the future in a manuscript of every thought and action that ever existed. And I said this when I was 4 years old. I said to my mom, is every thought and every word that I've ever said recorded somewhere? Like I thought about that when I was four. And she was like, what are you talking about? No. And yeah, so I think like we're always naturally in touch with the Akash. It's just like a matter of like putting words to it. And then often Rudolf Steiner's readings contain the Akashic records. So remember that all of these are the same individuals who tapped into the Mu, Atlantis, Lemuria theme of things. And the yogis definitely did. They had documented writings of these things. So some believe that the Akash is accessible to certain individuals, particularly those with heightened sensitivity, or if they really develop through practice. And the spiritual significance of it is that the records are seen as a source of wisdom, guidance, and insight into our soul's journey, our purpose, and our future. So, in a more scientific spin, the quantum physicist by the name of Ervin Laszlo describes the Akashic records as some sort of imprint of electromagnetic waves that are left behind by the universe and all of its happenings. And if we combine all of the stories, it's really easy to conclude that the Akashic records is something like a virtual system of files where the experiences of the soul, their thoughts, their actions, their emotions, along with their words, is recorded from the very beginning of existence. It this helps for those of us who can access it recognize the patterns in mortality to change the present, to make a better future, and to learn from the mistakes of the past. That is the mistakes of a past life that they wouldn't have otherwise remembered if they didn't get their hands or their minds on the records. Often we're going through these experiences and really not understanding. Like we're gonna see, you know how like the meme that's going around is like, if you don't heal this, then you're gonna have the same issue come around in the same people. That's the same concept here. The nature of the Akashic records, um, well, first of all, it's not written in stone. Second of all, they continually evolve along with the person of which whom the records is about. So everything in the Akashic records is related to karma. Anyone that is remotely interested in spiritualism is familiar with the concept of karma. And it's in this concept that our actions or deeds have some sort of lasting butterfly effect on the world in a cause and effect pattern that is very much a very real thing. It's very visceral. So this is a concept that's referred to in Sikhism, Hinduism, Jainism, Taoism, Buddhism, thisism, thatism. It's the Eastern version of what goes around comes around for the West. The karma we rack up is what is said to be the main preceding event that shapes the outcomes of our present as well as our future lives. Okay. I don't know why I have two of those. So our third eye. So the third eye connects us most to this informational field. This is a drawing that one of my students from one of the cohorts made of the third eye in their manual, and they left the manual in the studio, and I took a picture of it. But arguably, it's definitely possible for us to connect with the heart and then use our heart, but the information that we would be able to perceive and download from the Akash via the heart would be very limited compared to what we're going to use with the third eye. So here is what we're accessing is really the Cliff's Notes. There's obviously a ton of information in this field. The Akash and us accessing it is meant to be organized. So you'll see on the left side this diagram. This is from the OG Starseed manual from the RYT 200. And it's about the chakras and how they correspond with dormant parts of the brain, different parts of the brain. And then how these nerve ending, the cranial nerves, play a role of the peripheral nervous system. So this is actually from the craniosacral therapy realm of, cerebral spinal fluid and awakening different parts of the skull. So the one we want to work with here is the sixth chakra. So you can kind of study that the human body and the chakras of the side view is actually superimposed, I should say, onto our head. So our own Akashic book offers shortcuts. And this is where there are entire table of contents at the very beginning, and they can be accessed for ourselves. They can be accessed for others if the other person has consented. This is an arena that I tend to be like it just kind of comes naturally for some reason. Like I am able to really pick up on someone's Akashic records individually, like when I first like feeling their energy field. The Akashic records are massive. They're organized, they're a structured database, and we can access them. And we can even have guardians or angels to help guide us through if we feel lost in this hall of records. But when we tap into our third eye imagination, we're really activating this dormant part of the brain that has access to all of this information. It's not that I have some sort of special gift, and obviously Edgar Casey does have a special gift, and so does David Wilcock. It is that we tapped into it and we've exercised it over and over and over again. And often, if you come from an ancestral lineage that also did that, it's like accessing it through the spine, and the different exercises that tap into the spine awaken it very easily. So this is for like all of us, but this might explain why some of us have a more trusting attunement to it, and others of us, we've got to work a little bit more toward it. I'm sort of in the middle of both and kind of balance both. But the specific pranayama that we practice in this section, which is going to be in the following video, awaken the dormant portion of our brains that can help us tap into the imaginative state and this area of the Akash. Mental picture shots are the shortcuts. So when you start to get visions, I tend to be more clairsentient. So I feel it comes through as a feeling. You might be clairaudient. You might hear sound. So you've got to really know the way in which the information is going to be translated to you through your sensory experience. And in that way, you'll be able to decipher the information. Mental picture shots, I would say, like for me, happen very quickly with this, and also feeling. The information revealed for personal is revealed for personal growth. It's not really the subconscious itself, but it's almost like this higher layer of knowingness. It's a higher layer of energetic perspective. So here are the most potent parts of the Akashic records that you're going to be accessing. And these are really just sort of overarching data points to make it easier for us to understand. So first one is the 12 main tracks that are most relevant in this incarnation and this lifetime. These are the 12 strands of golden light, and each are different facets that make up our current identity. Each track contains an archetype or individuated characteristics. You can choose 3 main archetypes in this to simplify the overarching themes of the 12 strands if you're having trouble like identifying each of the 12 strands. These 3 areas are important because they're what we fall back on when the going gets tough, meaning these comprise the axis of what we rebuild our confidence around. There's also 5 karmic knots. So the black boxes of karmic cornerstones that we choose to grow from. These are 5 problems that we came here to solve. Essentially, it's our karma, it's our to-do list. Could be things like poverty consciousness, education, relationships, being able to stand up for yourself. It's the main things that are happening in your life as samskara. And then there's going to be one saving grace. This is the most cherished part of who you are. So, for example, like if you're a nurse, typically, or if you were a nurse in a past life, and like, let's say in this life, you're like an entrepreneur or something, your saving grace is going to be your heart space, your ability to be able to care for people intrinsically. And it's going to show up in different ways through the karmic knots. Um, so as you'll notice when you're really taking in this information, our personality, quote unquote, is simply a condensed version of our past life experiences. With these 18 data points, we can understand our underlying patterns that run our day-to-day energetic composition. So, like, for example, anytime anybody like is in my presence, I'm automatically able to see the main archetypes and themes that come through. Carolyn Meiss's work is really helpful to understand this. She goes over, she has like multiple archetypes in her books. But the ones that we talk about in the last RYT are the saboteur, the inner saboteur, the prostitute, the victim, and the inner child. So she's got a number of them, but those four are very prevalent. And it's like once you know those, like on a conscious level, it's really easy to pick up on psychically. It'll become more prevalent as you start meeting people. So also I think like birth order is like in this lifetime is like really important. Like if you're an only child or if you're the oldest like myself or if you're like a middle child, like all of those factor into the archetypes, karmic knots, and your saving grace. Okay, so there are protocols for being able to access the Akashic Records. I'm going over how to actually access this yourself. I think you can outsource it to somebody else. A lot of people do that. But I think that that is not the most potent way, since the veil is so thin, since we're at the end of the Kali Yuga, since we've broken through so many of our bloodline curses and turned them into blessings. And we're just in this time of paradigm shift, extreme paradigm shift on the collective. I think now is the time for you to be able to work to access this yourself. So some of the key points of this are that you're getting universal consciousness access. This exists beyond conscious awareness. This is located above the astral plane, which we're going to talk about that in future modules. We're talking about the lokas, which is, I guess, how the yogis describe different dimensions and like where the gods sort of reside from. So, like, you know, how Shiva comes in blue, Goddess Tara comes in green, like they're from different lokas or different dimensions. Anyway, this is above the astral plane. So it requires reaching different vibrational states, different frequencies in order to access the past life information. So the access methods you can trance channel like Edgar Casey, which is sort of the meditative state that you need to be in, frankly, to get access to the information. You can do breathing techniques, which is what we're going to do. You could do advanced meditation practices, and it often requires a combination approach. The key is the essential requirements are you need to have complete body, mind, soul relaxation, clear intent and focus for what you're going in at for you've got to have like an intent. Like it's sort of like going into the library. Like if you don't know really what you're looking for, you could get lost in the Dewey Decimal System for days. You could get lost in the sauce. So you need to have an intent and focus when you're going to do these exercises. And also a receptive state of consciousness and a patient systematic approach. So here are some of the characteristics of the actual process itself. This requires a lifetime of dedication. I think it could be multiple lifetimes of dedication. Um, I think we're in a time now where it's accelerated. So, and the veil is like super thin, and it's really cool to do this like during a full moon on one of the portals. So I think so today's 5/6. We're coming out of we're in the 5/5 portal. So now there's always a portal, there's always something that we're going through astrologically. So in other words, it's always a good time. Um, but I think like the desire to want to do it is so has to be so much greater than like whatever portal that you're in. So you need a specific directional intent. The information might appear gradually, and you might have different reception methods. You might have visual responses, auditory messages, or like an angelic guide or an appearance. And so the results are, even if you don't get whatever it is you're looking for, which you've got to be getting something out of it, even if it's just relaxation to the point that you're starting to understand the Akashic Records more, but you'll get enhanced intuitive awareness, a heightened sense of consciousness, deeper universal connection, and personalized information specific to your soul's resonance. Okay, so the spine contains access to Akashic Records. This is how I've done it. So like I said, I had somebody else do it for me, and then I've done it myself as well. So we're going to activate the different parts of the brain through Kundalini. Doing ujjayi and spinal flex is going to activate the cerebral spinal fluid flow. Breath of fire is going to stimulate the third ventricle, pituitary, and pineal gland functions. Alternate nostril breathing calms the nervous system. The right nostril breathing energizes the brain centers. The left nostril breathing relaxes them. So alternate nostril breathing is going to balance out the brain hemispheres and connect them. Spinal alignment practices like cat-cow are going to lubricate the vertebrae and stimulate the nerve centers. Um, we tap into every nerve ending in the spine. So every time we're doing this, we're actually able to access the Akash in a different way. Spinal twists help to release blocked energy. Shoulder stand, so the posture of immortality, reverses the gravitational pressure on the spine. The life force nerve stretch activates the sciatic nerve energy, and spinal flexion in easy pose stimulates the spinal fluid circulation. So now that I'm thinking of it, one of the ones that is going to be so great for this is the one that we're going to be doing to open up our 500 hour for somatic wealth, which is awakening the 10 bodies. So I'll be posting that one because we're going to be doing it together. So accessing the Akashic records through spinal work, the root lock mula bandh, it grounds the energy at the base of the spine. You do the meditation at the heart center to connect to the soul records. The crown chakra activation is going to open up this higher consciousness channel altogether. Your neck lock, Jalanhar, is going to help regulate the cerebral spinal fluid. And then sitting in silence and having that time for yourself is going to help to allow for integration. I don't know why these are doubling. Okay, so what does the Schumann resonance have to do with this? So the Schumann resonance, real quick, 1952, W.O. Schumann hypothesized electromagnetic waves between Earth and the ionosphere. In 1954, this was confirmed by Schumann and H.L. Koenig. The frequency was identified at 7.83. So 7.83 is Earth's regular heartbeat just pulsating. The ionosphere is 30 to 600 miles above the Earth's surface. So when you go and tap into that wisdom Bible that I had linked for you guys, that isn't a part of the curriculum by any means. It was just an aside of like, hey, here's something to browse through while I'm putting together some of your content. There is a section in there about the plane, how Earth is a plane dimension and it's not a sphere. And so I think that that is very interesting to think about when we think about the Schumann resonance in the ionosphere. So the connection into tantric wisdom is Om, by the ancient Indian rishis, considered the true form of sound, parallels the traditional spiritual teachings, and it links directly to our practices to link into the Schumann resonance. So the physiological effects of tapping into 7.83 hertz, it influences the mammalian brain function, creates brainwave entrainment, operates at the alpha theta brainwave intersection, and it enhances the cerebral blood flow. So every time you see those cell towers or whatever, like I wish I had a picture of them here. Hang on, let me go ahead and grab a picture of the cell towers so you guys can see them. Cell towers. This is what they look like. These things. Okay. They are emitting vibration. Oops. Sorry, guys. They are emitting vibrations. How do I get this back in here? Give me 1 second. Oh, there we go. They're emitting vibrations into our entire atmosphere. So broadcasting frequencies. So the more that you can really ground and get in touch with Earth's frequency, the less those manufactured waves can get grab a hold of your brainwave state. Yeah, having trouble communicating that one. But the consciousness connection here of when we're in touch with Earth's energy facilitates meditation states, it enables hypnotic states, and it increases suggestibility, and it supports our deep spiritual access, our ability to be able to access different realms. So the Akashic Records relationship. So basically, like, this arena potentially houses the Akashic Records, which is Irvin Laszlo's theory. It creates electromagnetic imprints, and it facilitates consciousness expansion, enabling us to have a collective experience of this. So this aligns very well with Dr. Mauro Zapatera's research on cerebral spinal fluid, which is coming up in future modules. And it's a bridge between the finite and the infinite conscious, which is what we incorporate into our teaching methodology. Like, what we're learning isn't just like a series of breathing techniques so you can have a certification. Like, that's one piece of it in a very 3D realm. The actual 5D realm, our greater soul's purpose, why we're all connected, what we're actually passing down to our descendants, and that is not just our children, but the people around us, connects the finite to the infinite through what I would consider to be the Akash. So now you're going to tap into the next video, and we're going to prepare the spine and our brain to be able to meditate. So you want to set this up so that it's like, maybe right before bed. If you want to do it first thing in the morning, like we're about to do, it's first thing in the morning here now. You can, but you want to prepare yourself with intent moving forward with this, okay? Satnam yogis, truth is my identity is my truth. Namaste.